My mother-in-law might have done the most evil thing I've ever seen in my life. So I was pregnant, I just had a beautiful baby. Well, my mother-in-law's not a very big fan of my baby. And why is that, you're probably wondering? It's because my baby was born with a disability. My baby is deaf. He can't hear. Well, that gives my mother-in-law some weird thing in her mind that I gave birth to a disabled kid and gave shame to the family. So now she's kicking me out of the family home, taking her son off the inheritance, and it's not even stopping there. When I tell you what she did next, you're going to lose your marbles. Boy, have I got a birth story for you guys today. But it quickly grows, from a birth story to a kidnapping story. Confused? Well, let me explain. Have you ever heard of any of those switches at birth stories online or in the news? There was one that was national news in the US back during the late 80s or early 90s. I remember thinking back on that and wondering what I would ever do if my child was ever switched with another at birth. Would I even be able to tell the difference? And if I found out, what would I do? It was just a silly fear I had, but it turned out that I was right to be afraid. The thing is, the switch was not done by accident or by a stranger. This was done by somebody I knew and on purpose, or at least that's what I think. I hope it's not true, though. Let me give you a little context first. When my husband and I discovered I was pregnant, we were over the moon. We had been married for a while and trying to get pregnant for weeks now. My mother-in-law seemed to be thrilled, which surprised me immensely. Jenny, my mother-in-law, never liked me. It's safe to say that she straight up despised my very being. Sometimes she would be glaring at me, just looking like she wanted to conjure the ground up to swallow me whole. And this started just around the first few months Tom and I were dating. The longer that we dated, the more she seemed to dislike me. I don't know if it was because she thought I would be taking her baby boy away from her, which could not be farther from the case. She didn't act the same way about her daughter, Talia, so I had no idea what to think. Talia and I got along all right. At least she did not seem to hate my guts like her mother did. Still, she was still a little cool in my presence, which did suck. I always wanted to have a close relationship with my in-laws, but it seemed like it was not going to happen. I still stayed with Tom, determined to see his relationship, though. He eventually proposed to me, and I accepted right away. For the entire 2 years we've been dating, I felt like he was the one. Naturally, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to scare him off or something. When he proposed, he admitted that he felt the same way about me but did not want to scare me off. I just laughed, telling him that we were two peas in a pod. My mother-in-law tried to interrupt the wedding, but we ignored the outburst and her attempt to stop it. We got married despite her best efforts and prepared to live our lives together. When Talia got engaged to her boyfriend Zach, I noticed how much of a difference there was in how Jenny acted. Jenny made it clear that she loved Zach almost as much as Talia loved him. He was the perfect choice for her dear daughter, and I, of course, was not a good choice for her son. She still hated me, but seemed to accept that there was no way her son was going to divorce me. Well, we were in this for the long haul, whether she liked it or not. Thankfully, my father and mother did not have the same problem with Tom. They loved him, treated him like a son of their own, and, well, my parents had already had a son, my younger brother, but it was still a nice gesture. After we married for about a year, the two of us decided to try for a child. We had talked about starting a family since our year anniversary, so it was certainly something Tom and I wanted to pursue. However, even if you wanted to have a child, it wasn't always easy to make it a reality. Getting pregnant was not an easy thing to do. We took some fertility tests, and what ended up coming out is that Tom's sperm count was low. It wasn't me, it was Tom. Even though I didn't blame him, sometimes these things happen, but we were determined to keep trying. After a year of trying, nothing happened, and then we would look into using fertility drugs. Yes, I know, it was expensive. But if we started to save up some money, then we would be able to afford it. The year slowly started to approach, and I still wasn't pregnant. This was making me fear that Tom and I would never conceive naturally. However, about a week after the 1-year limit, we set ourselves. Well, I found out that I was pregnant. It was amazing, and I never thought I would be able to get pregnant, yet I was. When I told the family, imagine my surprise when Talia, my sister-in-law, told me that she was also pregnant as well. This was so strange, 2 pregnancies at once, but I was happy for my sister-in-law. The 2 of us did become a little closer, though not that much. At least we seemed to have mutual respect for one another that we were pregnant simultaneously. My pregnancy was pretty smooth, and we learned we had a son that we were going to name Todd. On the day I went into labor, my sister-in-law also went into labor, though she was gone into labor a few hours earlier. She was rushed to the hospital, and once I realized I was in active labor, I also went to the same hospital as her. Labor is no picnic, let me go ahead and say that. A lot of it is a blur, especially after they gave me the painkillers. The next thing I can recall is hearing my baby cry and seeing it handed to me. My sister-in-law came to visit at some point, showing me her baby, whom she named Frank. At some point, my husband left to go grab something to eat, leaving the 2 of us in the room. I fell asleep, and when I woke up, sister-in-law was gone with her baby. She probably went back to her hospital room to spend some time with her baby, so I looked over at my son sitting in the crib and was struck by such a strange feeling. He looked almost different than he did when I held him in my arms once he was born. Yes, he had not been cleared up at the time, but I still felt this strange feeling in the pit of my stomach. When my husband came in, he mistakenly dropped what he was holding, and it banged on the floor. I was about to panic, afraid for the baby was going to wake up, but all he did was let out a soft little whimper before settling back to sleep. How strange. He acted like he didn't even hear it. I didn't say anything to Tom about what I was feeling, and this is because I feared that it was just the stress of labor and delivering the baby. Over the past few hours, I've been through a lot, so I figured after getting home I would feel better about everything. The problem is I did not. Once I got my son home, I realized that I was still struck by the same feeling. There was just this feeling I had that was preventing me from bonding with him, and I just desperately wanted to. Could this be postpartum depression? I know this was very common in women who just gave birth, so if I did need to reach out for help, I would continue to do so. Any visit to the doctor I took ended up fine. My doctor said that I did not seem to be distressed, but that he would keep an eye on it for me so I could take care of myself and my child. As for my sister-in-law, she seemed to be taking to motherhood quite well. Even Jenny seemed a little more open to me, but I'd say that was until I realized something was wrong with my son. I noticed that he never seemed to respond to noise, at least not right now. It had to be very loud. It was something I picked up when he was still a newborn. So I reached out to the doctor, and it turned out the baby was deaf. He had some hearing, but would still require hearing aids one day and could benefit from sign language. Tom and I were at my mother-in-law's when we decided to tell her about the baby. It just so happened to also be when Jenny had her friends over and was proudly showing off her grandsons. I did not mean to time it this way, but it is what happened then. Instantly, Jenny changed, and so did her friends. They eventually left, and Jenny starts to yell at me for embarrassing her, saying that I did wrong because I dared to give birth to a disabled son, which brought shame to Jenny's family. This was beyond crazy to me. Guys, she ended up kicking us out. Honestly, I never cared for my mother-in-law, so it wasn't really a big loss. However, I still have not connected with my son. It was until I saw a picture of Talia's son on Facebook that I realized how much he looked like my husband. At first, I thought I was seeing things, but he was the spitting image of him. So I looked up Zach and compared Todd to him, and the 2 of them looked like the spitting image of each other. My mind was racing. This could not be true. Could it be? Could the babies be switched? I thought back to the moment when sister-in-law visited me in the hospital. My baby looks one way, and then when I wake up, he looks entirely different. It made no sense, and I did not say anything to Tom because I felt like I was going to worry about him. What I chose to do instead is gather evidence to do some DNA testing. All the while I was doing this, I kept telling myself it was all in my head. There was no way that this could be true. It's going to take a while for the DNA test to come in. So I'll update you guys, once I get them. I don't know what I want to say. If it says Todd is my son, then why am I not bonding with him? But if he isn't, then that means my sister-in-law stole my child and gave away hers. In a sense, like it was nothing. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So we're dealing with an absolute nightmare of a situation. Imagine having a baby and then the potential for it to get switched at birth could be a reality. There's multiple updates, and the first update is titled, I got a DNA test done, and it turns out sister-in-law's son is mine. Bum, bum, bum. Looks like that's a groundbreaking title. Guys, if you're not subscribed to the channel, just take a second to hit that subscribe button. It does support the channel a lot, and most of you viewers right now are not subscribed. So please hit that button. Let's jump into this update where the DNA test was just completed. Update number 1. Hey guys, it's been a long couple of weeks, but I'm back here to tell you the craziest update. While I type this, I'm shaking and I'm crying, and the child my sister-in-law has been raising is mine. Frank, what she named her son, is my son, Todd. You know, the one I've been raising is hers. I can't fathom why she did this. Perhaps she realized he might have a disability and feared being shunned by her mom. But I knew Ginny would never do that. My sister-in-law was her little princess and could do no wrong. It might make her mother ignore Todd to an extent, but never would she just cast out Talia as she did to me. Or she could fear the same thing happening with her own mother-in-law. I didn't know Talia's mother-in-law very well. I just knew her name was Amanda, and she was Zach's mom. She seemed to be a nice woman on the few times that we met and was nothing like my own mother-in-law. So Talia did get lucky with her. Whatever the reason for switching our sons, it doesn't matter. My sister-in-law went behind my back and stole my son because she was ashamed of her own. Both of these boys deserve better, and most of all, however, I needed to get my son back as soon as possible. I finally shared this information with Tom, but Tom did not believe it at first. He realized that I would not lie about such a thing and looked over all the evidence that I compiled. It showed that everything I told him was nothing more than the truth. My sister-in-law and his sister had switched our children, so going to the police and the courts was important. But first, I want to confront Talia and embarrass her in front of everyone. It was important that she felt a friction of the pain that I felt since I brought Todd home from the hospital. There was nothing wrong with the child in general. He was an adorable baby who smiled and giggled. The only thing unusual about him was that he was deaf. It wasn't even wrong. Todd could live a perfectly normal life even if he was deaf. Adjustments would have to be made, but he could still live a fulfilling, happy life. I've decided that we're going to introduce this information to my sister-in-law during my mother-in-law's upcoming birthday party. It's a big bash, and she invites everyone. Even Amanda, my sister-in-law's mother-in-law, is in attendance. The ones who aren't attending are my husband, Todd, and me. Now that I knew there was nothing wrong with me for not bonding with him, I felt more loving towards him. The child did not deserve to have such a mother, but I'd seen Zach with my son, and he seemed like a good father, a good man in general. It's a couple of days until the party, and I will update you all on what happens after. Guys, please wish me luck, because I know it's going to be pretty crazy while I'm there. Update number 2. Hey, the party happened, and let me tell you, it was a giant crap show. Not for me, but for my sister-in-law, Talia. So when I get there, Jenny was not happy to see me, but Amanda just so happened to spot me and invited me in. Jenny hated being humiliated, so to save face, she let my husband, the baby, and me come in. Sister-in-law looked shocked to see me, and she looked at the baby, got this weird look on her face, and then turned away. I looked at Tom, who had just given me a squeeze on the shoulder, and, "Why are you walking away?" I called out my sister-in-law. "Why are you even here? No one wants you here." Well, me shouting at her dear precious daughter made her not care about saving face anymore, so I ignored Jenny and then waited for sister-in-law to respond. Talia eventually turned around and glared at me. "You know Mom doesn't like you, so why are you here? You have some nerve showing up when you're not even invited." "Oh, I have nerve. That's funny coming from you who switches our babies at birth. That's it. I dropped the bomb. The baby you're holding is mine. Todd is yours, and you try to deny it all you want, but I have DNA test right here. Tom took them out, and he made copies and was seconds away from handing them out to everyone. But then she outburst, "Shut up, you liar!" Tom began to hand them out even faster, and Amanda stepped forward and looked at the paper, gasping, "Talia? Tell me the truth right now." The one person Talia always wanted the approval of was Amanda, her lovely mother-in-law, so when Amanda demanded the truth, she got it. Talia admitted that she was swapped in the babies. She realizes that the baby was having trouble hearing her voice, and she knew how her mother could be, and the last thing that she wanted was for Amanda to treat her how my mother-in-law treated me. So she switched the babies. This made Amanda laugh out loud, saying that she would never dislike a child because of a disability. The disability was not a reason to hate somebody, you know. Well, Talia tries to beg Amanda to forgive her, but she turns and goes to her son. "We must take care of this so that you can get your son back," Amanda said to Zach, who was obviously in shock. Everybody starts to leave the party in droves. Jenny even tried to apologize to me, but I told her that I would never forgive her for shunning me. Then I handed Todd to Zach and took my son from sister-in-law. The moment he was in my arms, I felt right. He didn't even cry, and instead he giggled. This did have to be figured out in court, but I was just thrilled everything was finally out in the open. Update number 3. My husband and I mentioned the lawsuits. Okay, so I know it's been a couple of weeks since my last update, but as you can probably imagine, I've been busy with my son, bonding with him and making up for lost time. Zach has been doing the same, and since the two boys are cousins, we've been staying connected. The two aren't going to meet up yet because the wounds are still fresh, but we do plan to let the boys bond soon. Tom feels the same way, but is also struggling because his sister is the one who did this to us. I could not believe how great it felt to have my son back. Even though I always knew something was off, I just kept brushing it off, only to realize that I was right all along. My mother-in-law has continued to try to get into contact with us, but we are no contact with her. As for my sister-in-law, we've brought this to the courts, and custody is in the process of being transferred to us. From what I know, Zach has not seen Talia since the day of the party. She hasn't even been allowed to see Todd. No part of me feels sorry for her because my sister-in-law did this to herself due to selfishness. If Talia had just kept Todd and not switched him with mine, then she would have been fine. Mother-in-law would have not said a thing because Talia was her golden child. In addition, she should have never assumed Amanda would do the same as Jenny because Amanda never gave off that vibe. Other than getting the custody sorted out, we're also going after my sister-in-law for emotional trauma and are suing her for an undisclosed sum. Honestly, it's the least that she can do. For half a year, I suffered thinking there was something seriously wrong with me. Why could I not bond with my baby? It had to be me. Would I suddenly snap and hurt him because I could not bond with Todd? These thoughts kept repeating in my mind almost on a loop. Tom said he never felt what I felt, but I didn't blame him. It was different for a mother who carried the baby for 9 months and then gave birth to one. This wasn't to say all fathers would react the same way my husband did. However, it could happen, and I didn't blame it all. We're hopeful that sister-in-law's going to settle just to get over with it. She's currently busy trying to save her marriage and see the child she initially discarded because of her disability. Again, I do not pity her. Whatever Zach has to do is what he has to do. The last time we spoke, I did say that I would help him out no matter what. Zach thanked me. He was such a good guy who did not deserve to be going through this. He could do so much better than my sister-in-law. I just hoped that one day he would be able to find true happiness. Update. Sister-in-law's lost custody. Hey guys, I can safely say that I've reached the point in my life when my life is good. My son's well over almost a year old now and has been doing great. While it's terrible that I missed out on all those months, I was still grateful that I had not missed his first words and all those other milestones. It's truly a miracle I finally decided to act on my suspicions and find out, once and for all, if my sister-in-law switched our babies. So the lawsuit's still ongoing, but I'm pretty sure that she'll end up settling. It's only a matter of time, especially given what's going on in my sister-in-law's life right now. You probably won't be surprised to learn that Zach has officially started a divorce process with Talia. Not only that, but he's also going for full custody. For now, Talia only has supervised visits with her son because of the switch. There was also charges that she could face from the state as a result of switching the babies. Again, all this is pending, but I'm in no rush because I've already seen her life imploding day by day. Zach has become a great friend of mine as well as Tom's. He's brought his son over several times, allowing, him to bond with Frank. The two look happy when they play together. They're cousins, after all. So, one day we will explain everything to the boys, but this won't happen until they're at least a little older. Anyways, back to my sister-in-law, which I'm sure is why you're all reading this update. She's going to be losing her husband and probably her child with only supervised visits. When my mother-in-law learned of Zach's intention to divorce Talia, she filled it out and went online blaming us. Yes, it was all my fault. I wasn't the one who switched the babies, but clearly, because I dared to speak up, it was my fault. As I said before, I knew Jenny would have stuck by Talia no matter what, even when she realized her son was absolutely deaf. See, Tom and I have also decided that we don't want to have any more contact with his side of the family. I mean, we already cut them off pretty much, but now we're making things official. The plan is to continue with our lawsuit and focus on our son. I don't know if the two of us will be able to have more children, so this may be our only shot. And I'll be damned if I'm not going to enjoy every moment of it. I have no idea if there will be any more updates after this, and if something happens, I surely will pop on here and let you all know what's going on. I hope that I don't have to because I just want to live a calm and cozy life with my son and husband. Final update! Guys, I'm back. Yeah, honestly, I never thought I would be back to update. Well, now that you may be thinking I'm coming here to tell you about the lawsuit, well, there's no drama with that. Talia settled out of court and ended up pleading for a misdemeanor. Zach is still a part of our life. He did move out of the city, but visits often with his kid, who, has first a pair of hearing aids. The kid's doing well, and he and my baby are so close. But the reason for me popping back on here is not because of anything good. You see, my sister-in-law must have finally snapped, because she showed up at the boys' dual birthday parties, demanding to see the two of them. It isn't fair, and she claiming that she was cut out of the babies' lives because she was just doing what she thought was right. Amanda, my sister-in-law's former mother-in-law, she was there, and she took Talia aside and told her that she needed to leave or there's going to be a lot of trouble. However, what happened next was so shocking. Talia took a swing at Amanda, who managed to dodge out of the way left, right, and sink. This caused Talia to stumble and nearly fall. She tried to attack me this time, but we all rushed inside and locked the door. Talia proceeds to bang on the door and the windows and just looked ready to break a window out if necessary to get in. I realized it was time to call the cops, but Tom was already 2 steps ahead of me. They came by, arrested her, and took our statement. The poor boys were so rattled by all of this. They cried from the moment Talia started making all the fuss, and then it took ages to settle down. It took about an hour and a half to get them to calm down, but they finally did, and enjoyed the rest of the party. Guys, I'm just so mad that Talia showed up and tried to ruin yet another special event. She did not in the end, but I was still so mad that it happened. So Zach suggested that we consider moving out of the city, like he did. It'll stop Talia and Jenny from randomly stopping by, banging on the door, breaking in, or just trying to cause a fuss. So Tom and I did end up discussing it, and we decided that moving is probably the best bet. It's going to take a while to plan on it, but hopefully, in a few months' time, we will be out of this city where my in-laws can no longer cause us any sort of problems. Wow, this is just one of those stories where it's just almost so hard to believe because what Talia did is so borderline insane. No, it is insane. I mean, she kidnapped her own baby, switched it with the baby that wasn't hers, but she was still related to that baby, all because she, had a baby that had a disability. And it's absolutely absurd that somebody could be so toxic to just toss a baby aside, your baby, all because of the disability. And in your head, you're thinking, oh, my family's going to disown me because I gave birth to a kid with a disability. It's so silly to think like that. Guys, I don't blame OP at all for wanting to press charges, for wanting to sue, and for wanting to see Talia put behind bars. Ultimately, some things did happen to Talia towards the end of the story, so she didn't really win at all. She lost. And the babies were eventually switched back, and the good thing is, the two babies were still in each other's lives, and they'll find out when they get older about what exactly went down at the birth. Guys, I want to hear from you about today's story, so if you do want to discuss it, drop it down in the comments down below. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories like this every single day, and if you want to be a part of it, consider subscribing. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, and of course remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.